even convened yet. So I'm convening the Environment and Energy Committee, Advisory Committee meeting, August 24th, 2022. The first order of business is a substitution for Secretary Sarah said she can do it, but she has to leave at 8. So I didn't know if you wanted to do it. I'm just like, because you're Madam Vice Chair.
Well, we were shooting to be done in an hour anyway.
We're trying to be done as soon as possible, and I'm trying to get through these items pretty quickly. I think we can get through them pretty quickly and then just go straight into EAP, because we need to give Henry as much time as we can give. Having said that, it's already 10 past, so I don't know that we'll necessarily get out by 8, but maybe 8:30.
Okay.
Whoever, you could do the first part, and you could do, or one of you could. I have the laptop here. Somebody take it.
I think it's great if Sarah does it because that holds us accountable. So
yeah.
Trying to keep the meeting.
All right, I've already I did put in Emily or Sean's name.
Sure.
For present, but I already started the minutes for you, and that's just going by the agenda, and I'll look at my phone for the agenda.
Sure.
All right, so substitution for Secretary, Sarah Stinson. We're opening for public comments. Seeing none. Okay.
Anyone?
Going once, going twice. Voting on the adoption of the previous minutes. Did everybody glance over?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Does anybody? So we are a full quorum. We can make motions and take votes. So does anybody want to move to adopt the minutes from last meeting?
Yeah. I moved to accept the minutes of the last meeting.
Emily so moved.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Oh, forgive me. You go ahead. I won't do
Ruth-
this. I'm
Ruth
taking
seconds.
notes.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. All right, so update on Button Up. Joe isn't here. I haven't heard anything about, what our plans are for marketing. I do think that was something we were supposed to brainstorm.
Yep.
Do people have thoughts on how to, are you caught up?
Yeah.
Okay. Do people have thoughts on how to market Button Up?
I had a couple thoughts. The basics like flyers at the rec center and local businesses. I was wondering, do you think EverSource would advertise this? I mean, it doesn't affect their business.
Oh, that's a good thought.
So, well,
It's in their interest to do so.
no, wait, isn't it not in their interest because the
No.
more inefficient people are, the more they sell?
Well, but it really
Technically.
in in their interest because, they try to sell us that they need more infrastructure, but
Right.
people oppose it, and this way they don't have to.
My understanding is they are the sponsors of Button Up, right? So
Oh.
they should,
Yeah.
in theory support it, but I've been scratching my head, how are they the sponsors of something that's teaching people how to not buy their product?
But that's not gonna happen.
Well, yeah, it might be worth checking because they actually do send out newsletters. Like I get those to my email.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Encouraging.
Yeah.
it can't hurt to check.
Well,
Yeah, I think they will.
Plenty of partnerships
They are
with
technically the
phone
sponsors.
companies.
Right.
They are, I don't know if it's like an outside, maybe Henry knows, an outside organization that they're a member of, or is it that it's a Button Up is underneath, is part of what they do to look nice and efficient?
Their staff, they have efficiency staff that are in their employ, and NHC uses a brand that they use. It's not an actual organization, but the four utilities all use the same brand, NHCs. So yeah, they are supportive, and I encourage you to give them a call.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. We can do
Yeah,
that.
unless they're in the dark.
Flyers.
Can I make
as long as we
can I
use
make
NHC
calling them an
names.
action item for someone, Emily?
Yeah. I can do
Great.
that.
Oh, yay, I don't have to do it. You have no idea how stressed I am these days.
I'll say contact, not call.
I
Thank
will
you.
greatly
Emails are my
appreciate
favorite. I don't know if we want to really push this hard, but we could also ask local businesses to donate gift cards and raffle them off to attendees to increase attendance. But I don't know if we want to throw our weight behind the Button Up that strongly or save our firepower for other things. But that's an option. And also Facebook.
It's worth noting in the minutes for sure, even if we move it to a different campaign.
Yeah.
Does anybody know if it's just Newmarket residents that can get online to watch that?
No, everybody can.
Then I would suggest I can take, flyers to the library or to church or something.
Sure.
Just
I think it helps.
I think as far as the town, we're trying to market to residents of the
Sure.
town, but it's not restricted to any. In fact, NHC's Button Up is a statewide, I guess.
So if I
program.
can get our darn printer to print something, I'll,
Well, we could probably address
I'll
that.
print
Right, I think that we can have the town probably pay to print things
Great.
for us, yeah.
So does a flyer already exist that can be distributed?
Yes, NHSAFE sent us
Okay.
a flyer.
Okay.
Cool.
What's your budget? Do we have a budget?
Do we have a budget?
Because I was
We
thinking like
have
overall
every,
flyers.
my
too.
understanding is that anything we want to spend, we have to ask the town council, which means that we submit it, then it's the next Wednesday that it technically gets submitted to the, like, the council goes on their agenda for the following meeting. So you're looking at like a 2-3 week waiting
Which
period.
is in, like,
even. But I
a month.
feel like if we just go through Steve and say pretty please, that he can probably make it happen. And if we're just talking about printing.
So, yeah, we
Some
could probably
flyers.
print enough for businesses, but I feel like door to door might be a
Flyers would
big
be a lot.
ask,
They
like,
would,
so maybe we.
unless we get high school students to do it.
Yeah. But,
Are we
yeah,
all, okay. Anything else?
you know, Facebook, Instagram was my only other, that's kind of an easy
Yeah,
one.
social media.
You guys double time and a half.
There's a surprisingly large
Do
following
you-
on Facebook, Newmarket.
yeah.
I need to get that mic and bring it.
Yeah.
Does
A lot of people
someone, can I
follow.
give you that as an action item to do the social media? Okay.
Yeah.
Stop me if you want.
No, I love it.
I love
Are you
assigning
kidding me?
action
I
items.
love it.
Saturday, but I'll post it.
Please.
Thanks, Sean.
Assign
I
people.
can help with a copy.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No
let's stay
problem.
on message, like, just
Yeah.
be consistent.
I
So
don't
I,
want to say anything that's, you know.
Yeah,
considered
the
on thing,
flyer
but-
already
I'm
exists.
sure you have good instincts for it. You'll be fine.
So, I can just find it and send it to you all, to
Cool.
the whole group again. I think everybody got it. Whatever, I'll send it again.
Great.
So, any other thoughts about Putnam? Okay, I mean, I think Emily kind of covered our bases.
Thanks, Anne.
Sure. All right, next is the update on recycling compost PSA. I did call Rick Molaski, who's the director of, among other things in town, he's the director of Public Works. Haven't gotten a call back. I called him twice. And high school isn't quite in session yet, so I haven't reached out to the Sustainability Club on that. So I have no updates on that. Does anybody else have any information, thoughts? Okay. New business. People may have seen the email thread we had about the, it's not tax credit, it's tax
Exemption.
exemption that Newmarket has. And so after Joe looked into this, essentially, so if you get solar panels, the value of your house goes up. And so what Newmarket offers is enough of a tax exemption on the value of your house that you basically don't pay for the added value.
For one
Which-
year.
Right, for just 1 year. And so the thought was, well, don't we want to, A, be incentivizing solar panels more than that, which is just kind of just a wash for people. We're not really like truly incentivizing it. We're just kind of removing the penalty for it. And B, something I kind of added, which was something I was really pushing for when we were interviewing people for Solarize, was what about low to moderate income people? Can we not use something more aggressive like a tax credit to help low income people also have access to getting solar panels? So this, anytime we talk about it, obviously everything that we do is going to be sent to the town council, but this is something that would impact revenue for the town. So the town council would give a lot of scrutiny to anything that we put forward in this manner, but I think it's worth talking about and seeing what we think and what we want to recommend.
Well, the more incentive, the better.
Right.
So it's a question of what the budget can afford, what the council will go for.
And the argument can be made, certainly, that the largest portion of our tax base is not low-income people, right? High-income people are the ones with the larger, more expensive homes that have the wider tax base. It does, what definition of low to moderate would we use? I think we can find, so for example, we could take into account whatever the average for the town, anybody with a household income under the town median, we could say you could get, like, so if they pay $6,000 a year in taxes, we could say, we'll give you up to half of that off of your taxes, for however, or for like 5 years, or until you reach the cost of the solar system that you've installed, whichever is less, right? So basically, you're eventually getting that for free. It's robust, but I think if, I don't know that it would actually, be that much of a cost to the town, and they would still be getting that revenue, and they'd be getting the full revenue after the, 6 years or 5 years or whatever we decide. But something like that where we, don't give them the full amount, let them spread the cost of the solar system over several years, and then, not take off all of their taxes, but maybe up to half. So something like that. But more of a tax credit instead of a exemption.
I like the idea a lot, and if it's true that like a large portion of our population is higher income, then it seems like it would make a negligible dent in taxes, but like we would need to be able to model that for the town council and show them,
Yeah.
like what's the actual impact likely to be on the
I think
budget.
a tax credit makes more sense than the knocking off with the expected increase in the appraisal value of the house. In fact, solar panels don't always increase the value of a house. There are people who don't want it because then if the solar panels are up, the cost of working on the roof goes up astronomically, and the cost of maintaining the system. So there are some people who want to buy a house who don't want solar panels. It's kind of hard to say how much, the value of the house goes up and then they have to knock it off. A straightforward tax credit would be much less headache for everybody who's trying to make who would otherwise have to make those judgments.
Right. And just to be clear, I'm not even suggesting switching our tax exemption to just straight up a tax credit. I'd still leave it as an exemption for the middle to upper class of the town, but essentially it's something you would have to apply for, right? You'd have to come in and go, here's my income for the previous year, here's my receipt for the solar system I purchased and installed, and then they would get a certain amount credited to them.
I'd kind of prefer to keep it simple, just give a good tax credit.
Across the board,
Yeah,
that will
across
see
the
the,
board. No, it might be
it would be
a
more of a
sliding-
revenue
might
hit
be
for
a
the town,
sliding credit.
a sliding
It
credit.
could, but I don't really particularly like that, the way it is, that knock off the
current
increased
exemption.
valuation, because it's so hard to determine.
It is, especially in this market. We're putting our house on the market actually right now,
Yeah.
and we just got solar back in May.
Varies, with the market going up and down, it's just a major headache.
And the value is up over $100,000 since we bought the house last year. And we just got solar, but it's only at 50% output, because if it was to be at 100%, we'd have to redo the rest of the roof.
Yeah,
So I think we should also keep in mind how much solar people are willing to actually get installed on their house as well. Because I'm still paying Eversource. It's not 100% output. So we're using up that 50%, and then the rest is Eversource.
Do we feel like we can come up with a suggestion tonight, or is this something we want to think about more? I do, so just having worked on legislation, I worked on tax homestead exemption legislation that was not at all aimed towards solar energy, but aimed towards making housing more affordable, home ownership more affordable. And I worked with a dean of the mathematics department of his college that he teaches at. So he's a PhD in math and very, very good. And I worked with him very closely on this bill, which has kind of the similar functional pieces of it. I'm happy to consult him on this. I actually need to reach out to him for legislation for next year anyway. So I could get information from him for next meeting as well and see, a potential formula, if you will.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds good. I think that's a good next step.
That's a good idea.
Action item.
Action
assigned.
item for me,
Ellen.
contact my mathematics friend,
Yeah, very good.
my math friend. Anything else on that item? Okay.
I think that.
I do really, really like the idea of doing something to make solar energy accessible for LMI people.
that's going to be difficult because the cost is so high.
But doing it as a tax credit basically makes it free over 5 years or whatever we set, right?
Yeah, I guess it depends on what you call lower income people, probably.
Right. Well,
You
and
know.
for the sake of the example, I said anything under the average for the town, so it would
Yeah.
change every year.
Yeah,
Right, we're not talking about solely like impoverished folks here.
No.
And I'm sure for Newmarket, probably under the median is, like, I think we trend middle class and upper middle class.
I mean, do we factor in the cost of inflation?
There's gonna be a lot
It'd
of
have to be everywhere.
factors,
Yeah.
and I think one
Yeah.
of them should be the fact that Newmarket has a really high percentage of,
Rental.
rental, thank you.
It does.
It is proportionate to the rest of the seacoast. I mean, there are pros and cons to that, but those landlords should be a part of this puzzle. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things to consider, but in the interest of us being about to move on
Yeah,
from this
the
one.
apartments below my neighborhood, they have solar.
Hmm?
The Cherry Hill
Yeah,
apartments.
we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely something to consider when we move forward.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Next item is the energy master plan that we need to, I know we're doing a lot of work with Henry right now, but this is something we need to start thinking about. I've gotten an offer from Rob Werner, who is I don't know if you remember the town council meeting, but he was on the Zoom. He's the former city councilor of Concord when it passed its resolution, was on the energy committee for Concord as well, and he also happens to be the, I don't know if it's president or director of the League of Conservation Voters, whatever his title is. So he's offered to help us for free, which is great, with our energy master plan. Hanover had gone with a consulting group called 3 Degrees. I did reach out to them. They're based in California. The reason they went with them is because they did have a contact who worked there, but she doesn't work there anymore. The person I spoke with said that the cost would start at $50,000. It is something we can ask the town council for, but I'm getting the vibe maybe from town council they probably aren't willing to spend $50,000, and I don't know that we need to spend $50,000. That doesn't feel like a good use of taxpayer money to me, but that might just be me.
no, I
I'm with you on that one.
tend to agree with that.
The other thing is, and I did actually just get an email from the National Caucus of Environmental Legislators for my contacts for their clean energy policy. So these are national experts on clean energy who are willing to help as well.
Awesome.
That's great.
All right. So I'll try to bring in Rob and the NCEL experts for the next meeting. If I can't get them for the actual meeting, we'll get information from them ahead of time.
Great.
Anything else on that clean energy master plan? Clean Energy New Hampshire presentation is from Josh Singer, and that is for our October meeting. He couldn't make it to next month's meeting.
Great.
And us switching to Wednesdays kind of threw him off because we had him scheduled for Tuesday.
Of course.
All right, anything else on that? So the idea there is that in addition, and this would all be eventually part of the master plan, but in addition to us actively pursuing a 100% renewable energy goal, reducing our energy consumption is also part of that.
Yeah.
And Clean Energy New Hampshire has from what I understand, a big menu of projects that we can engage in. We've already done switching the town lights over to LED, for example, but they have a lot of different projects that we can kind of choose from and see
Sure.
which ones are maybe the lowest hanging fruit,
Yeah.
which ones we really want to pursue.
Yeah,
Chip
see what
away
they
and
are.
do these changes first. Yeah.
Exactly.
Into that.
Anything else on clean energy presentation in October? Okay. All right.
I'm sorry, very quickly, is that something that we want people besides us to be able to enjoy beyond Channel 13? Like, should we advertise that happening? Or do we want to hear from Josh and then whatever things we decide to pursue, we advertise those? Just to be prepared for the October meeting.
My tendency is to think people will be more interested in particular projects rather than listening
Just
to
the
a menu
suite
of projects.
Sure, okay.
But I mean, that's just my gut reaction right now. I'm not really
Yeah.
married
Well,
to
it's not
that
till
thought.
October, so if you
Yeah.
change your mind, we
Yeah,
can
they
get
might-
sorted out
yeah.
about that
It might
meeting.
get kind of
Don't feel
unwieldy.
We have 2 months.
They can get some efficiencies, get
Okay.
a menu and see what we like, and then maybe people can
Okay,
decide from that.
okay, cool.
All right, we are changing our hats from the EE to the EAC, and we're turning it over to Henry. See, we got there pretty quick this time.
Henry, thanks for cleaning that up and sending the copy right out.
The slides.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was thinking we'd take some time tonight to look at those. And I guess just want to check with you all, what do you think would be most useful for us to do? Should we walk through the slide presentation? I did see the email from Joe. Sounds like you talked to town manager. Maybe there could be a presentation. I guess it's after budget season, so perhaps October or something like that. We've got some time. I think that's my general understanding, recap of the plan.
Mine as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
October, you say, okay.
Yeah, so gives us plenty of time, and we can maybe take a look at this and see what's missing and what we like, and yeah, maybe we just walk through it sort of together. Cool. So it's based on a template that has been used in a number of other towns. And particularly, this was sort of Rye adapted something from Lebanon. It goes through the channels, but now we have it here. And this can be a template both for the conversation you have with your town council, and then for the two statutorily required public hearings. And it's yours to adapt as you choose. And yeah, we can just take a, I've got like a sort of a picture in here for you. You can change that, do whatever you want, customize it.
A nice choice. Looks good.
But yeah, you guys have a pretty town here, so.
I sent one comment. Did you get that?
I did, and I changed that. You had noted that the past tense to present tense on the designating this.
I just wondered if it went through all right.
It did, yeah. I'm sorry if I
okay.
didn't respond, but that's
That's all right.
Yeah. So it's sort of like 4 things, and then the Q&A. You'll do what is community power. You'll do an overview of your plan. You can talk about the coalition, and then you can talk about your timeline. And I'll sort of just begin to move through this. But some of the slides are text heavy, and that's to sort of help you all as you're preparing see the text, but you may want to weed them down if you do want to do any customization or assign somebody to do a walkthrough of it. But, basic overview, community power programs, pool or aggregate the demand of customers. This is good for lowering costs and accessing renewables. We know all this stuff. I'm not going to read all the lines on every slide, but you do reference the LSA, and there's this relevant quote about the purpose and their intent in enacting this was to encourage voluntary, cost-effective, innovative solutions to local needs. Is this helpful if I just talk through this?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Can you actually just bounce back to that one very quickly? I just wonder if we should reference the year of that law.
we could do that.
I printed it out, say.
Because that's the one that took place, in 1996?
Yes, and then was modified in 2019
Okay.
and 2021.
I just think that's relevant. I was interested to learn that New Hampshire was the first in the nation to break that monopoly, that opened the door for all this to then happen. So I think it's something New Hampshire can be proud of, and I don't know, maybe nobody cares about those details, but
No, I
I
think
can
that
go
was
down on it.
important
I didn't know
It
that.
helps tell the story.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Well, and appealing to our pride as New Hampshire,
The nation.
Well, right, and we're all live free or die.
Yeah.
And that breaking up monopolies, I feel like, is aligned with a lot of values.
I feel
Yes.
T-shirts coming on.
Yes.
I'll have-
You get it. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's a misconception out there that Massachusetts had the first law, which is in fact not true. So,
All the more
Steal it
reason
from
to
us.
put the
Well, I
date
seem
in.
to remember, I was thinking of the history of that.
It's in California in like 2001.
There's a truism at the
I
State
think
House
when I
that
first
New Hampshire's
moved
either
to
the
New
first or the
Hampshire-
last to do anything.
From New Hampshire Electric
That's
Cooperative.
about right.
they're still around.
First
Okay.
for community
Yeah.
power,
I was in
last for
Wilmot, New Hampshire
MLK
last
Day.
night.
Oh
They were
my
there.
god.
Well,
It's
We
a
got, it
launch.
was Nottingham where
Yeah, makes
I moved to right that time.
Okay.
I'm sure. But
Yep,
that was
they're still there.
more than 50 years ago.
Okay. Thanks, Henry.
Yeah, so, and just something fun fact, New Hampshire was the first state to pass a deregulation or a utility restructuring law to tell the utilities, sell your power plants, we want a competitive market, and sort of kicked off that for the country. So New Hampshire's really been a leader in a couple of ways. And I think, we're modest folk here, so we don't necessarily do the marketing and let everybody know, but we do want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think that helps bring a different perspective on all this for some audience members who may just be thinking of it from a green-only perspective, and either you find that attractive or
Right.
repellent, and so if it's framed a little bit differently in a
Feel like
larger
pride.
context,
Right.
yeah, it could help.
Yeah.
I agree. Got your generic what is community power slide. New Hampshire cities and towns can procure electric power supply on behalf of their residents and businesses. Sometimes we call this become the default provider. That's another way to frame that. And then, your 1, 2, 3 pooled purchasing of energy supply, economies of scale, utility companies deliver the power, and then the benefits, rates, green power options, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
And some of these slides do have
Presenter notes.
these notes down here, which should be relevant and good if you want to take a look at them.
Cool.
Benefits slide, and this is sort of our unresolved guiding statement here. New Hampshire or Newmarket Community Power will only launch if ... to be determined. So we'll put that in there. But you could talk about the local control, the potential to lower costs, and renewables and resilience. Keep moving.
Yep.
So this is, I think, helpful to help people connect the dots. Is put up a example EverSource electric bill, and you can sort of show there's the supply side, there's the delivery side.
Yes.
Supplies in blue, deliveries in green. Deliveries EverSource, supplies either the default or somebody you can choose. This is not EverSource making money. And then on the second page of the bill, just in more detail, again, highlighting the difference between the supply line items and the delivery line items, and letting folks know your bill is going to look the same, except the supplier will now read Newmarket Community Power. And this could even maybe be modified to hit that home further, but
Yeah.
Especially the supply and delivery page. Like
Yeah.
little arrows pointing to each.
right.
Yeah. I like it though. It's very personal.
Or just like under in the red box, just have a strike through the word EverSource and a little arrow and it says Newmarket Community College.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
That
yeah.
says what we need it to say.
Yeah, I like that.
Is that an action item?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
it is.
please.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And so I'm not taking live notes, so if
I will.
yeah,
Well, I'll capture the action item at any
That'd
rate.
be
So
great.
this is slide 7.
slide 7.
Thanks.
Again, lots of text. You may want to read this one down, but just some of the key points hitting home again. EverSource is going to continue to deliver power and own the grid. The plan will authorize the town council to contract for the services, and then that participation is voluntary, and that customers can choose to opt out. So again, this has a lot of text, and you might want to kind of boil it down to just the key points.
Well, I think if we do like each bullet point one at a time, like the slide in transitions or whatever,
Right.
then you take the time with each bullet point and it's not overwhelming.
As long as we're not reading what's written up there, because that's I don't know, that's a pet peeve for
It's
me.
always annoying, yeah.
Yeah.
So annoying.
Yeah.
So
Transitioning the bulk of that to
EverSource
just
will
speaker
continue
notes.
to deliver
Yeah.
electricity to customers and
Yeah,
to.
it looks like those need to be more in the note section, and then up
Right.
where the key points are, they need to be bullets.
Yeah,
I
a little,
would-
well, they are bullets, but they need to be a little shorter bullets.
So
Yeah.
what I would
And
encourage,
everyone likes images.
one of you or several of you will be giving this presentation. So whichever ones of you are going to be doing that, maybe there's an offline you can get together and work through it and customize it as.
Is there someone here who likes editing?
I'm gonna be
PowerPoints?
donating a kidney that day. I don't think I can do
You
it.
didn't decide this second necessarily.
I'm pretty good at
Editing PowerPoints.
It could even just
We can
say
say
taking it down,
Emily
so
is.
I can do that.
Volunteer.
the parts that are highlighted,
Yeah,
and
that's what I
then
was gonna say.
those notes
Yeah.
can go down below.
Yeah.
And you maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Your
agree.
speakers
Like, I mean, bolded, not highlighted.
Right.
I'm gonna put not specific to this slide. I'll capture the notes about the slide, but as a general action item that we'll tweak.
Yeah. That's not imminent though. We don't need that.
You have a little bit of time.
Yeah.
It's basically before October, and just being clear on who's gonna say what. Is one person gonna do the whole thing, or each of you, someone's gonna take a different section? That kind of
I
thing.
can help you on that.
And I can absolutely be present and answer
And
questions.
Sean will
Good.
clean up
I
the
did the annual presentation for our client, so
text heavy slides.
Yeah. Will you just make a note that we have till October for that? 'Cause I
Yes.
just wanna make sure I
Yep.
know that I don't have to do it.
I'm gonna say
tomorrow.
end of September.
Okay. Yeah. Good call.
August starts to come to an end, and it's like, oh no,
Yeah.
it's Melissa' birthday. So that's the end of the what is community power section. And then it moves into your electric aggregation plan. And it's just a little bit of history. In September, the town council designated the Newmarket Energy and Environment Advisory Committee as the Energy Aggregation Committee. Also, this says energy aggregation. Is it electric aggregation? Might be. I don't know that it matters. But we'll just be consistent throughout.
Yeah.
I've seen it done both, two different ways.
What
different
does
towns.
EAC stand for?
I think so. I know I made this, but I would actually go through and make this all electric aggregation as well.
Okay,
So
yeah,
that's
because
my
energy
bad.
also includes fuel, and we're not really covering fuel,
Yeah.
so,
Right. And I'll just.
You're doing that live?
I'm just
right?
gonna do those three, and I'm gonna.
Okay.
And then I'm not gonna do it anymore.
And you guys as editors will know to keep an eye out for EAC.
EAP equals electric.
Right.
P.
So then, the town council has tasked you with preparing this plan, and the plan details how the program will operate. And I think that Joe had a comment where he said this may not actually be relevant. This will be relevant when you're going to public hearings, but for the town council, you won't probably have it live just yet publicly. So I'll even just make a note here.
On our webpage or at? Or just at?
So did we, I am fairly losing my mind these days, but did we decide that we were going to do, as the committee, we were going to do one meeting, one public hearing, and then, tweak it after that public hearing, and then send it to the town council, and then they were gonna hold a public hearing? I thought that was the last thing we had
I
agreed on.
think you decided you were gonna present a work session to the town council.
Oh, we're talking about work
That's
session
my,
first.
that's my
First, yeah.
recollection
Yeah.
also.
Right.
All right,
And I
we're
would
before
prefer
that
that anyway.
stage, okay, all
Right.
right.
Okay. And then, when you get to the scheduling the dates, you'll be like, this is the first of our two public hearings. Again, just the purpose of the plan, defining your goals and objectives, defining the governance, and, you're giving the select board the authority to make decisions, the town council authority to make decisions, summarizing the process, and then referencing some of the regulations. You have to provide universal access, reliability, and equitable treatment of all classes of customers. You can't treat one residential customer any different than another residential customer. And meeting at a minimum the basic environmental and service standards established by the PUC and other agencies. So that's really referencing the renewable portfolio standard. You have to get a minimum threshold of renewable energy as required by law. And then the plan does talk about how net metering will be provided. It does talk about how the electric assistance program customers will get their discounts. Those are the low-income folks that get support on their electric bills. So that's addressed in the plan, but the plan does not commit the town to any defined course of action. It does not impose any financial commitment or liability on the town or the taxpayers.
Just because net metering was raised, we talked about how for customers who have net metering, it might actually kind of not be beneficial to have a cheaper plan because they wouldn't be paid as much. Can we not include that in our EAP and say we want to actually pay net metering customers at whatever the going rate is and
So-
not what we're charging?
With the plan addresses net metering by punting on net metering in
Okay.
certain ways. It says that we will provide net metering products. We aim to have them be equivalent to or better than the utility, but the details of those exact rates will be determined by our service provider. So because of that, I don't think it's broad enough that it leaves open the possibility of that's really gonna the details of that are gonna be hammered out through the coalition's vendors who we're negotiating contracts with. I didn't start this off with an update on the coalition, but maybe I'll squeeze that in at the end actually.
Okay, so essentially we don't have to include how we're going to deal with net metering in our EAP?
Well, you say that you have the right under the law to set net metering for supply rates, and you intend to use that, and you intend to encourage net metering, but you don't get really specific.
I almost would want to say that we would pay, the amount that we would pay net metering customers for their energy would be the higher of whoever's higher, right? Eversource or, but we only go launch if we're cheaper, so.
Yeah, and it's one of those those rate setting things that is, I think, there's a little more in the weeds than this plan. This plan has more broad goals and objectives. And you're definitely setting the precedent, the guiding principles of we want to encourage that without, saying here's what the price will be.
Right.
Yeah, when they come up with the actual rates, that's where the rubber meets the road, and people like to.
And I don't mean to actually suggest an actual number, but to essentially assure, in the language, assure that we aren't going to penalize people who, put solar panels on their homes, right?
And I think for the typical resident, it may be that, Newmarket Community Power is at, let's just say, 10 cents relative to 11 cents for Eversource.
Right.
But for that homeowner that's got the solar panels on the roof, it really won't make much of a difference or any difference because they're using most of that power on site, and
Right.
that's the same. It's really for those cases where you've got an array in a field somewhere and then group members, that array might want to stay on the Eversource rate if it's a much higher. This is just basically your table of contents, intro to community power, the overview, the coalition, goals and objectives, and then the statutory requirements, and then our growing list of appendices, which is up to 10.
That's not a good look. Are any of those?
Plan.
So
Are we able to merge any of those?
you actually are able to reference to online versions of several of these. So the next round of towns that, we're sort of thinking of down the line, town meeting, not 2023, but 2024.
Yeah.
Legislative background, Community Power Coalition, New Hampshire, Renewable Portfolio Standard, Utility Procurement and Rate Setting, Utility Net Metering Tariffs. Those 5 are informational and can be made available on the internet, and you can say, these are available on the internet here, and then you can sort of say, here's our net metering, group net metering plan, here's what our public policy was, here are the abbreviations. Yeah, you need 6 through 10. You need the 9 and 10 were the ones that PUC specifically requested. I mean, you don't need the abbreviations.
Or A through E.
Yeah.
But 1 through 5, I almost feel, I don't know, I'd have to look at how long they are. I think they were about like a page and a half, 2 pages each, something like that. But
Yeah,
like, they
1 to
could-
5.
They could be.
These one you could lose these, and it would not damage your
Well,
plans.
or at least like condensed down to one summarized version of those with the references to the actual documents. Because that's all just documentation that exists in the world, right? That's all like the law.
It's purely like we're kind of over-educating in a way. So, and I think it sounds like you're capturing this.
Yeah.
Good. Because I'm not gonna try to like do it now or make
No,
comments.
no.
If that's very
Yes,
helpful.
my capture is that slide 12 has too many appendices and that 1 through 5 could be referenced by
Yes.
pointing to the fact that they're available on the internet.
Perfect.
Whether or not that's the general attitude of what we want to do
But
it.
like in just a couple of paragraphs, like explain this, and explain what they are, but then like reference the actual documentation. And I think abbreviations can go in that same thing. That's all like basically
It's all
informational.
Yeah.
I
It's all
guess informational is like,
I do love a list of
It's in the-
abbreviations when I'm reading something I'm not familiar with. It's abbreviation heavy. That's like the
it's
key
in
to
the
the map.
reference section of the library is what I'm saying.
That's where I live.
Yeah, the librarian over here is getting excited about
I take
abbreviations.
it. I want a guide.
So yeah, I think that's a good simplification, and people will be a little less overwhelmed.
Okay.
So this is sort of, Newmarket Community Power will be the default electricity supplier opt-out basis, offer innovative rate options and opt-in optional products, operate on a competitive basis, meaning customers can switch back to Eversource with no penalty. You'll be self-funded by participating customers, so the town will not use taxes to cover program expenses. And I think, honestly, just me reading this now, this could be clarified, self-funded, or maybe it's clear, self-funded by rates paid by participating customers. I guess that is clear. And then town council with advisory support from you all will contract for the services to operate the program. And that's potentially with the coalition if you choose to do that.
Is number 4 clear? I mean, you stumbled on it, Henry, and you're familiar with it.
Maybe it's
Caught
because
it,
I've read it
but-
too many times, but
Okay.
I think I just almost just didn't see the by rates.
By
piece
rates.
as well.
Okay. Yeah.
It's clear to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Customer notification and enrollment. So this is going through that process where at least 30 days before you launch the program, all customers will be mailed notifications that say here's what your new rate is compared to Eversource's. Customers on default Eversource Power will be able to decline or opt out. Customers served by a competitive supplier in the market, nothing will happen unless they affirmatively opt in. When new people hook up to the grid, they'll get similar notices, and all customers will be able to know their rate at least 30 days in advance of a change, and there won't be any penalty for switching.
That's great. It's helpful. It's text heavy, but it's like the meat of it in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, that I imagine the average household is going to want to know about.
This is your, and maybe I guess I could be doing it this way. Is that, oh,
Oh, yay!
is that better?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is your, your example of the kinds of products you'll offer. There's the default. Does my mouse show up? It does.
Yeah.
This is what everybody will get if they don't make any decision, which could, for example, would be 5 to 10% more renewable energy at a price that meets or beats the utility. And then they could go down to a minimum renewable. They could go up to a 50% renewable that's equal to or perhaps higher than the utility, or they could go all the way up to a 100% renewable product that would likely exceed the utility rate. And there's just this disclaimer. This is what the renewable portfolio standard is, a policy that sets minimum requirements. And so actually this graph, the last committee I met with changed it. So this is showing the blue is what's required by state law under the renewable portfolio standard by year. You see it goes kind of up to, in 2025, 25%, and then it holds flat. And then this is illustrating what you could choose above and beyond that, in increasing sort of at 2% a year. And the other town said, you know what, this is a little different than what this says 5 to 10% above, but here we're looking at 20% above. So they basically just cut out 2026 through 2030. This is easily customizable. So I could work with you to say whatever you want here. Let's just look out 2023, 2025.
What's that last item, RPS class 1 non-thermal? What does that include?
So the thermal is, oh crap, do I even know? Thermal is, it's heating.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's like solar thermal and other renewable,
Like heating water, like
And
a
there's
solar thermal water.
what's the class 1?
What's class 1? So this is class 1 is the catch-all. That is, so for example, there's a solar requirement that's it's like 0.7%. So most of the solar actually ends up in class 1 because it's above and beyond this very small solar.
Non-thermal is everything else.
Yeah,
the last item.
Yeah, so this is a big catch-all bucket. So there's a specific carve-out for the small hydro dams, a specific carve-out for the biomass,
Okay.
and then this is anything above and beyond any of those carve-outs. So all kinds of renewables.
I'm not capturing this.
What we had discussed before, and this will be part of the overall energy plan, master plan, is essentially whatever we set it out for 23, adding, so if it's at, what we're at 22%, essentially kind of doing our own thing. I know we're gonna, the requirement increases for over the following 2 years, but we would increase it for our own goals because the idea is we're hitting 100 by 2030.
Well, that's the other thing, is this could show...
We could increase it 12% every year, and then that gets us to 100% at 2030.
Right, and I think, you have that goal, and then it's actually, it's hard to know what 7 years from now is going to look like price-wise, and it's possible. Right now, renewable energy is more cost-effective than fossil fuel, like hands down,
Right.
because of the market that we're in. And it's possible that will maintain, and it's possible that will go back and forth. So that could be realistic and cost-effective. It could be not cost-effective. And it's
No one's
hard to know
going
right
to
now.
drag us away if we don't need it.
So you could do it as a illustrative. Just be clear that
Right, because we don't want to.
It's not a promise.
it's not a promise, and so just some folks might, their eyes might widen at that.
We're gonna aspire.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
it's aspirational.
And then when you really get into the science and the technology of how you do 100%, there most certainly are challenges once you get up to a certain threshold in terms of the intermittency and some of that, but that's beyond me and not my specialty. So, do folks like how it is now? Or do you want to make it look like it'll go to 100% by 2030?
Aspirational.
I'm not sure it's like a huge.
If you were trying to sell me, and I were just, one of the town members, and I saw 100% by 2030, I would say, who are these dreamers? Are they going to be able to make anything happen? Because I know they're not going to be able to make that happen.
Well, and for the purposes of this presentation, I don't know how important it is that we change.
No,
the
it's
map.
just,
Like,
yeah, all it is it literally says illustrative,
Illustrative.
right? Like,
Yeah,
it's,
and
this
leave
is
the
an
rest-
illustration,
leave
this
the
isn't
rest
a
to
thought.
those are, optimists' imagination. That's,
I think
but
we should just leave it for the sake of time.
That sounds good.
yeah, I think it's fine the way it is, personally.
So the next section, that's the second section. The third section is the coalition, and just sort of the high-level bullet points. This is a locally governed power agency operating on a non-for-profit basis. I think this is supposed to say not-for-profit basis, but it doesn't. Whoops, I lost it. I won't change the slide now.
If you want me to capture anything, let me know what slide it is, because now that I don't see the thumbnails, I can't.
Oh, there it is.
Oh,
The slide number.
it's 18.
Oh, thank you, I'm sorry.
Anyway, providing expert services for member cities and towns, pool procurement, expert staff, risk management, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Some little blurbs. Some folks will,
That's my alarm.
the town council will be very interested in this detail. The CPCNH is designed to insulate member municipalities and their taxpayers from financial and legal liabilities, while being accountable to locally elected bodies. So,
That's key.
non-recourse liabilities are non-recourse to your general fund.
Yes, like,
We would like to make our town councilors very relaxed, and so that might have its own slide.
You might want to make this bigger and make this its own slide.
I'm gonna make that an action
Give it its
item
own
for you.
page or
And
something.
you, well, I'm not sure if maybe that
Yeah, we
falls
can-
under your.
We can do
Put a
it.
poster on the
Action
wall.
item.
Yeah. But it kind of, everything you've been
Yeah,
saying so
it
far
might be- needs to
says
be a few
the
more
same
slides.
stuff.
I'll say to prioritize the CPCNH designation language.
Yeah, the Newmarket insulated from liabilities by CPCNH.
Okay.
Our member map.
That's cool.
Hopefully this isn't too busy. Some of these get busy, but
Just take out the town of, city of.
true. That is overkill.
That was elegant, Sean.
I try to be.
So this is and again, so these numbers, the 75 million annual revenues is based on last year's energy prices. That number has doubled because the market has doubled in supply prices.
So what do the colors mean of the stars?
They mean nothing,
Just so you can, can I, may
but
I
you can
make
see like
a
Hanover's
declutter
red.
suggestion?
Except for Cheshire County,
I
that
want
might
to
need
make-
to be a separate
Because
color.
wasted a lot of mental energy
I
for
want to
nothing.
make a declutter suggestion and
Yeah.
say, get rid of the stars entirely and just put the numbers on the map.
Yeah, that could work.
So, like, there's a lot of stars, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that would have
This
saved
is
me
a little
some.
confusing.
Would've
This
saved me
slide
some.
doesn't have a
So-
number. Is this 19?
Oh, this is 19. That's correct.
Slide 19.
Good.
Suggestion. Declutter.
I feel like you could
So
probably get those
the
numbers.
entire county, Cheshire County.
Cheshire is a special case where they're going to start by doing opt-in, and only the county facilities will be enrolled.
Mm.
But there's a special rule with counties where if a select board asks to be part of a county aggregation, they don't have to go to town meeting. So the select board can enroll everybody into the county's program without, and I know you don't have a town meeting here, but that's the big hurdle other towns have to get over.
That's what she's.
Yeah.
It's just fiscal only.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, the county's not just automatically getting everybody in the county. They could under the law, but they've decided not to go that way. Anyway, just emphasizing, because this is a public power agency, the revenues are going to be controlled by the members as opposed to accruing to a private company, and you're going to be empowered to develop projects, and hopefully the launch will be this coming spring.
Stars on the map of New Hampshire is good. maybe just like all the same color so no one's confused. Like, why
Well,
is this?
then it doesn't, okay, so I
Like
thought the
numbered-
reason they
numbered
colored
off.
it, I thought the reason they colored the stars is if you have an idea of what part of the state that town is in, you can distinguish it. So like Newmarket is green, we know it's in the lower right, so you can pretty much identify Newmarket between the
Oh, yeah.
red and the blue star over
So I mean,
there.
that can be the only color,
So it's, well, what
Yeah,
I'm
maybe you just
saying
wanna call
is,
yourselves out.
or we can be the only star.
what
then
I'm
just
saying
the
is
rest are
if
red
you
dots.
want to keep the information of showing where each of those towns are on the map, then you just move the stars to, you just change them into numbers, right? So there
I
would
think
be.
just the number is a little more clinical and less
You're saying
celebratory.
replace the
No,
stars
that's
with
true,
numbers,
it's less,
right?
that's.
Yeah, you can also do
Yeah,
arrows.
I think you're
we
gonna
can figure
tweak
this
it.
out
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, our editors will
Maybe
try a
not.
couple
No,
of
We'll,
I'll
times.
fix it.
we'll work on the visuals.
They'll
Yeah.
fix it.
Yeah.
You can
I
put
don't
like
like
some
the
pretty
stars
colors
at all.
all over the map and just make it like a flag or something.
Henry, how many slides are there total?
25.
Oh, we're almost there.
Go quickly, I'll keep taking notes.
She's gotta go. If you
Right.
need to take over, I can take over.
Yeah.
So this is I'll spend a little more time on this, and this will probably be the last one I spend much time on, but this, sort of debated whether or not to include it, but I think it is worthwhile. So let me see if I can find my mouse. So this is showing again, Eversource does delivery, you're doing the community power. This is like an illustrative half and half of the bill. For the community power supply side, here's again an illustrative breakdown where this blue is what's going to your energy costs. But there is some cost in there for the service providers, operations, financing, overhead. This is really the coalition overhead costs. And then there's the reserve fund accrual. And this is basically your margin on top that you'll collect so that if prices change, you're cushioned, you're protected.
And by will collect, you don't mean actually literally the town of Newmarket, basically our account with
Yes,
community
with
power
the coalition.
to
Yes.
give us a cushion for the whatever
Exactly.
comes.
So hopefully not overkill for a public presentation, but maybe it is, and you can decide that.
Well, this is mostly, right now, it's mostly geared for the town council, right? So
That's right.
Yeah.
So I guess they would probably appreciate this.
more
Yeah.
information.
What I'm
Yeah.
seeing as a community member is that is some cheap power.
Yep,
That
and
is
I've
cheap,
got a
yeah.
disclaimer here that says average rates
Yes.
between 2019 and 2021 were 8 cents a kilowatt hour. Supply rates have since jumped to 15 cents on average. So
Yeah,
yes,
near
you're
And then
double.
10 cents per kilowatt hour is only for illustrative purposes. only.
exactly. So you're right. You want to be clear up front. We're not assuming a 10 cent rate.
Right,
That's very cheap in this market, but it was expensive a year ago.
exactly.
Yeah.
Illustration only.
Yep. So lots of illustrative
Slides,
illustration.
especially for the first
No, I
audience.
think it's
Example,
fine.
example.
We can also make
example.
make 2 adaptations of the deck, one for the town council or the
Yes.
Um,
Based on their
We can also
feedback.
get up-to-date energy prices.
I know Sarah has to go, so I'll just. This slide is.
Well, you shouldn't rush on everyone on my behalf. I'm sorry. I did tell you to go quickly, but that was.
We're
selfish.
almost there. Yeah. You've got a director on the board. The plan assumes you'll use coalition services, but does not require you to. And by joining the coalition, you get access to resources and legislative advocacy coalition. Then you've got a short timeline that just talks about you've done your research, step 1, you developed your plan, step 2, and then you'll hold your hearings. You'll adopt the plan by town council in blue. And then when you launch the program, there's some bullets on that have already kind of been described in the customer notification process.
Great.
And that's it.
On that green slide, I think the second to last bullet said hold public hearing number 3. Is that really just 2?
So
Or is there 3 total?
you have
by
to hold,
launch?
when you're launching,
I
you get
see.
30 days to notice your rates and then 15 days to hold a hearing
Got
on
it.
the launch
Okay.
of the program before you enroll with customers.
Okay, thanks.
And there's your slides.
Awesome.
So it sounds
Clear
like
to me.
there's a couple edits that you'll sort of go through it. There's maybe a couple graphical things I can work on. And
Okay, sounds good.
But just to be clear, we still need to work on the actual plan, right? Or are we just waiting until after we talk to town council to do more work on it?
I think there are 1 or 2 outstanding issues, and they're significant. They're the sort of the overarching goal of will only launch if. But other than that, most of the
Most of it's
content
done.
should
I
be
like the
done.
way
And
you
I
worded
think
it,
once
and
we, I feel like
then change the wording you said.
explaining it to the
Okay.
one person that had a problem with it, like once we get that done, I think we're all on the same page with that. I think,
Yeah,
for what I understood last time.
I think so. It was really just, that. I think when I was looking through it today, most of the changes have to do with that line that we had disagreement about. There were a couple other places that were affected by
Right.
whatever we
Yes,
decided
what
to do with that
trickles
line.
down.
So
Yeah.
once we figure that out, we're
So the kind of stock one was will only launch if, meet or beat the rate that Eversource. So the only if is kind of like this negative, you know, like prevents us from launching in any other condition. So it's like kind of like a safety net for the town council to be like, we don't have to worry, we're not obligated to launch, et cetera. So there's no mandate for us to launch in any case. It just says we're definitely not going to launch in these cases. And all I did was add, I think the confusion came, it was when we were just in like just non-quorum session. I said, well, what if we take out only and say we will launch if, and that's more positive, and that caused consternation. So I took that back and said, no, put the only back in. We'll only launch if, and then what I added is, so we'll only launch if we meet or beat Eversource, or if the town council decides to launch. And I thought that pretty much everybody thought that was good last time. So I don't know. Anyway, I'm happy with, we're right around an hour, so, and you're late, so I'm happy with anything else to add.
I think we can finish that up at our next session.
Yeah.
Good to go.
Henry, you're still available on the fourth Wednesday?
I believe so, but I will check right now. That is, that will be not the 7th, not the 14th, not the 21st, but the 28th, and I actually am available.
Yay! All right.
September 28th.
That's my birthday.
It's your birthday?
Oh.
Oh, bring cake.
Hey!
Ice cream cake.
Okay,
What's your favorite?
so anything else before we adjourn?
When do we think we're gonna give the presentation?
So we haven't scheduled that. Should we schedule that, or should we hammer out the last of the language issues before?
Probably.
I mean,
and we need Joe's perspective, I think. on
Right,
when to
he was the
present.
holdout on that, so it makes sense to wait for him to come back. But
And I
I mean,
think
if
we
you
should-
wanted to vote, we have a quorum. If you wanted to vote, we could.
And I think we should all be at that meeting if we can.
Oh, for the town
Agreed.
council, sure, of
Yeah.
course.
Real quick, I'm just gonna note in an email, Joe did suggest adding slides to reference how the plan is now referencing. We found the energy master plan chapter to be lacking, and we are
Yes.
making proposed suggestions to that. So I just want to voice that.
Thank
Right.
you.
It's true,
I'll
yeah.
add that to the action item since
Yeah.
you guys are looking at the deck
Yes,
to
Lord.
reference Joe's notes.
Reference that we are in the process of creating an energy master plan to be incorporated with the town master plan.
Because
I think
actually,
it's
not
good
in the
advice.
attachments list is that, or maybe it was in that list, but
The math.
we worked to draft up. Joe had, and I cleaned up the draft of some language that's now in your appendix to your electric aggregation plan.
Cool.
Ellen, my minutes taking is a formula that makes a lot of sense to me. Will you forward this to me, and then I'll tidy it up, and then I'll send it back to you?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, you can tidy up and then send it back to the whole group.
Yes, very good.
Anything else? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. See you in a month.
Excellent.
Thank you. Hey, an hour, y'all.
We're so efficient.
Yeah.
Enjoy the
An
rest of your
hour.
summer, everybody.
Efficiency
Oh
and
my
energy.
goodness.
Don't say